rocket ship underpants, and then the next they're in outer space. Mama, don't you know you keep the whole world turning round?
You're not going to believe this. I'm so excited. I have got a guest here named Charles Engle, who is an ultra marathon runner, and he's a star of the movie Running the Sahara. Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
So, okay, so I told you before that I was starting to run. I've been sharing with our viewers and our listeners that I'm starting to run for some odd reason.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't believe in running, but just woke up one day and thought, I'm going to try it. And you know what? I love it, and my sister's training me, and she said, if you're going to do this, I want you to go buy good shoes, and I want you to watch this movie. So I downloaded the movie, and it's amazing. You've got to watch it. Changed my life. Changed my life. So were you the driving force behind the expedition to run the Sahara?
Yeah, I basically had this, a few years ago, I had this really, as I like to say, this really bad idea that running across a very large desert was going to be fun. But seriously, I came up with an idea to see whether or not I had what it took to run all the way across the Sahara Desert, and managed to con a couple of my best friends into going with me. And this journey that originally was going to be, a couple of months and maybe a couple thousand miles, ultimately ended up being 4,600 miles and 111 days.
You can look at a map and estimate how many miles it'll take you to get to where you need to go, but it got longer and longer during the expedition. Why was that?
Well, you don't always, especially in a place like Africa, you don't always get to go where you want to go. And the maps are nowhere near like what we have here. And a GPS, there's no like turn-by-turn directions.
Right.
So very often it was just, taking the GPS unit that I was carrying and saying, okay, we're going that way, and just heading off across open desert. And that worked most of the time, but very often there were, mountain ranges. When we got to Libya, as you saw in the film. So from the time we got to the center of the Sahara in this town called Agadez, which is represented in the movie, it was almost 3 weeks to the border of Libya. And so we, as I like to say, we ran every single day 50 miles during that stretch, not knowing whether or not we were even going to be allowed to continue.
The viewer knows you do it, but it's scary because your other options are really scary.
Well, and talking about your program and starting a program, the one thing that I think you would agree is it really takes commitment. And so I think for us, I just said, look, we're gonna go right up to the border of Libya, and if they don't let us in, then we can go away from this thing saying we did absolutely everything we possibly could. But to remove ourselves from the situation, assuming that we weren't going to get in, was just not going to be okay with me.
So you were committed to just getting to Libya and hoping it worked.
Yeah. I had, you know what, again, I'm an optimist.
I'll be honest with you and I'll say, I used to not really like runners because I felt like it was a vanity thing, like a braggy thing. Look how far I've run. Look at what I won this race. And I don't know. So now what I'm realizing now, and there's a whole new respect and understanding for it, because it is so mental, and when you achieve that goal, your self-esteem is like amazing, and you're fit, and you feel like you can do anything. You can run across the Sahara if you feel like it. I mean, that's what you feel like.
Well, look, almost anybody you ask, if you ask them what the most meaningful things in their life has been and what's helped shape who they are, almost every time the answer that you will get are the difficulties that they face. True. That's how we are.
But you're purposefully putting difficulties in front of you.
Well, some people you have no choice.
Right.
I have a great friend who actually is having, she's got breast surgery, breast cancer for the second time, goes in tomorrow. I talked to her like quite literally this morning, and she is so unbelievably optimistic. And it always reminds me that, some suffering is voluntary, some is involuntary. People who go through that kind of traumatic situation, if they can be optimistic, and if you talk to them when they're done, and hopefully they've, survived and are healthy, they will tell you every time that they're actually better off after having faced the hardship. And so I try to...
Don't want to do it again.
No, it's that you wouldn't do it on purpose.
Yeah.
So for me, I voluntarily put myself in difficult situations because I trust the fact that if I can get through to the other side, I will benefit. Yeah.
Well, what I think for me, running has become such a corollary to the trials that we do experience in life. Because if you think, I could never do that, but then you do it. You can apply that to the difficulties that are thrown into your life that you didn't ask for. I feel like it's easier to overcome these things because I just feel stronger. Yeah. And I feel like I can do it.
It's a huge confidence builder.
It is.
And how long have you been running now?
6 months.
Yeah. Well, but if you think back, you probably can't even remember hardly that first month and how difficult it was. Mm-hmm. And the problem is, of course, most people, that's where they quit because they run a couple of weeks, and once that enthusiasm of the first week or two, and I'm going to do this thing, once that sort of begins to wear off and their body gets a little more tired, they lose the momentum and they quit, but they never reach the point where they actually start to get the benefit.
I got to tell you though, your movie, it just taught me so much. And I think the thing that hit me the most and has inspired me the most was I can do it. I mean, every time I felt like I wanted to quit, I go back and watch the movie and say, they did that. I can do this. Yeah. And Ray said at the end, he was like, if you believe you can only go this far, that's as far as you'll go. Yeah. But if you believe and you're willing to work, that you can go that far, anything, your mind is the only thing that limits you.
7,500 kilometers.
Yeah, that's my calculate.
111 days. Here we are.
We're done.
I know. What the hell?
So I feel like thank you so much for, being such an inspiration, and it's changed me being here.
No, it's my
pleasure.
Talk
some more.
My pleasure. Some more. Love it.
You got to go get this movie. Running the Sahara, best. It'll make you feel great.